everyone. Here we are once again, back with another edition of your favorite podcast. My name is Juan, here with Kevin and Mark, and we sure do like movies. And this time around, we are eager to discuss Mark's carefully crafted selection for this round. It is The Last Duel, released in 2021, directed by Sir Ridley Scott and starring Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Adam Driver, and I forget Jodie Comer. Jodie
Yeah.
Comer. Let me not forget her. So I'm eager to hear the guys' thoughts on this one. So let me get through this synopsis real quick. This takes place in the 14th century in France. We have two squires who are, close friends, have been in many battles, but whose journey kind of takes them on different paths. One of them gets married. The other one kind of progresses with his career as he becomes the right hand man of one of the chancellors. I believe was his official title. I'm not sure. Um, but anyway, the two kind of end up in a bit of a kind of a friendly rivalry. But then something happens where the one whose name is Jacques Lacarouge, played by Matt Damon, he's the one that marries Marguerite, which is Jodie Comer, and then she ends up being raped by Adam Driver's character. But the way the movie unfolds is that it's told in three chapters, telling you each one's perspective, because as this all comes to a head, she then reports to her husband, who was away on travel in battle. She reports to him what happened. He then, obviously believes her, and therefore challenges Jean Le. No, it's Jean Lacarouge and
Yeah,
Jacques.
I was going to correct you later.
Yeah, I
Jean
apologize.
Day, Jean Day Carew.
So then he challenges Legree to a duel, in which God will decide who is telling the truth or not, based upon who survives and who dies. But lots more layers to this. It's a 2.5 hour epic, as only Sir Ridley Scott can direct. So, Mark, your pick. Why don't you start us off with just your initial thoughts on the movie?
I think it was fantastic. I loved every second of it. I love how he decided to show us the beginning of the battle and then take us through the different accounts, and how every account was different in a way that fit the person who was telling their version of it. So it was really awesome to see all three stories. Okay, well, let me say awesome. Obviously, it's a terrible story, but you know what I mean. It was interesting to see all three different tellings of the story, and how there's some similarities and there's a lot of things that aren't the same. So just having all that play out, I was hooked. By the time we got back to the last duel, I was like, I think I was shaking, man. I was like, holy smokes. I don't know. I really legitimately, I felt like this was going to be one of those movies where, the good guy loses, but somehow, something works out and she's able to get out by like a miracle. I much preferred this way. I thought it was perfect. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
I want to interject real quick, not to say anything about the movie. Well, I wanted to say at the beginning that I want to call this episode in particular, "We Like Movies: The Little Death Edition." Uh, so that's what this was going to be called.
I asked my wife, has she experienced little death before? And she said no. And I just dropped to my knees like I have failed as a husband.
But that means your little soldier can't produce no little death.
That means my son is not mine.
Uh-huh.
All right, Kevin, go on.
All right, I'll go next. I liked it a lot. I thought the dialogue was well done. I thought the story was mostly well done. Only little nitpick I had is like in the beginning. I thought that the spacing of time was a little nebulous. I didn't know how much time was passing when things were happening, and that just been me. I'm like, oh wow, it's been 3 years. Okay, you know what I
That's
mean?
just you, bro, because these medieval movies always work like, bro, horseback ride is a week. So yeah, I mean, I'm assuming time is passing.
Yeah, no, because he had saved him, and all of a sudden, next time we see him, like I'm like, all right, he's fell on hard times, and stuff like that. And the only other thing is, so a little bit of things could have been clearer in chapter 1, but like chapter 2 cleared up, like how like Jean de Carreau, like his mistakes led to the fall, like, and I didn't know that his mistakes led to the fall in the beginning when they're like, oh, that other place fell. I thought it was a whole different area, not what they were doing. But those are just small little minor things. What I really like.
But you explained how those minor things were fixed because as the different stories are being told, they're filling in the gaps that you're missing from the previous story.
No, and that's what I say. It was just little things on me. I'm not complaining. Like I said, it's not a major thing. It's little things that I wasn't picking up in the first one. That's why I'm not saying it's a big thing. Now the one thing I would reminds
in the first story, quote unquote.
Yeah, in the first chapter. First chapter.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of my second favorite movie of all time, Rashomon, where they tell different stories from different points. I do wish it would have been a little more vague on did he rape her, did he not rape her? You know what I mean? Like, did they have intercourse, or was it somebody else and she's like misremembering? At least in his second story. And we'll get into that because, like, at least in the real story, there was apparently someone who comes out later and claims that it was them who did it, and the wrong person got killed for it. And
wait, you're talking about your movie, or are you talking about this movie?
No, I'm talking about this movie.
This movie is based on a true story, apparently.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. No, I know that, but you're saying the actual real story. They don't mention if she was actually raped or not.
Well, no, because it's all implied. Like, is she raped? Is she not? Is she making it up? And then, like, at least when I was reading up on it and the research, I'm like, oh, it would have been nicer just to make it more vague, because apparently after they die, like some 15 years later, someone else comes and actually confesses to the crime that happened, and it wasn't the guy that died.
You know what I mean? So it wasn't Legree.
No, he got pardoned, like, posthumously. You know what I mean? And I would have thought it would have been a little bit better, like, at least in his side, if he would have made himself look a little more cleaner, like, hey, we didn't even have sex. You know, just lie about the whole damn story. But like I said, that's just like in my mind.
Dude, I'm so confused as to what you're talking about, man.
Okay, let me clarify this. Okay,
okay.
So this is based on a true story. Kevin is saying that in the true story, after Legree died and after Le Carouge died, someone came forward 15 years later and said, Legree was innocent. I'm actually the one that, whatever Kevin is saying, that he confessed to the crime, or somehow he clarified that. In this story, they chose to go in a different direction where
it was straight up Legree.
Yeah, it was Legree, but there's still, doubts about perspective and who's being honest and whatnot. Kevin wishes they had left a little bit more ambiguity in there so that you don't quite know going into the end. And that's where we're at.
But I mean, I get you're saying that, but did you not? I mean, did you know about the story before watching the movie?
No, not really. Like, I knew very little about it. Like,
remember, it says that at the beginning of the movie in the opening.
No, I know it says it's a true story, but I just, I took it for what it was. But they never mentioned, the 15-year pardon or the 15-year later pardon. So that's what I'm saying. Why is that your gripe from the beginning?
Well, this is what it is, because at no point, like, even in his own story, right? I even have it in my notes, his own story. I'm like, all right, so you force yourself on her, and you thought, like, at least in his demented mind, he thought she wanted it. So at no point, like was it ever painted that, like, oh, he should get away with it? Like, he was just painted. It was just more black and white that he was the villain, and you're rooting for him to die because he's this bad guy. who just raped this woman,
Yeah.
as opposed to, like, at least in my aspect, if it had been a little more ambiguous, you know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you know what? Like, maybe this guy is getting a bum deal. You know what I mean? And stuff like
See,
that. But even in his own story, I'm just like, I just want, again, when I thought Matt Damon was gonna lose, I was like, I hope this guy dies, man.
I got you. So you wanted the
Uh,
actual true story. Like if it's a true story, then tell the story.
Well, yeah, just get a little more gray instead of just black and white. This is the good guy. This is the bad guy. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because if you would have never told me that, I would have assumed that what we watched was the actual story, and that was it. That was the end of it. And she lived. I mean, regardless, she did live happily ever after. But, I went to sleep going, oh, Legree did it. Okay, he got what he got, and that was it. So,
Yeah.
no, I see what you're saying now.
And that's just my personal thing. But Juan, what did you think about the movie?
I don't know how happily ever after her existence was, because she never experienced the little death again.
Well, it says that she lived happily and blissfully, and I mean, you saw how she was taking care of the town. I mean, it sounded like they were thriving.
Yeah.
For the record, it just
Never.
said she never remarried. It didn't say she didn't experience that little death.
Hey, there you go.
Okay. Well, even before that, I guess I do want to provide some insight that I think might be helpful, because it kind of sounds like, especially from what Kevin was saying, that in the first chapter you get some of the story, and then in the second chapter some of those gaps are filled in. I don't think you want to rely on that too much, because remember, even in the second chapter, you're not getting the full story. You're just getting Legreese's perspective. So
Oh, of course.
you still don't really know who saved who in the battle, right?
Yeah,
Le
right.
Carouge says that he saved Legree. That's his story, and Legree then in the second one says that he's actually the one that saved Le Carouge. I think it was clear in both of them that La Carouge, just like his true to who he really is kind of uneducated and brutish. And so he kind of was at fault for what resulted in that battle. But not all the details are accurate to, what actually, what was reality,
Right.
which I loved about the movie.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so
I
again,
was going to say, and that's why I loved it.
yeah, exactly. Like my perspective was, I mean, it was so well done. And actually, even to Kevin's other point about, I also agree with that the timing at the beginning was a little bit hard to follow, but I'm okay with it because I really like the pacing. I appreciated that things kind of moved along a little bit quicker at the beginning, and it didn't drag through some of those details of the time passing by and the circumstances changing. So it didn't lose me. I did kind of have to play a little bit of catch up, but at the end of the day, I was okay with it. Yeah, I mean, I thought acting was brilliant, directing. I mean, Ridley Scott is a master at some,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
and even just the set design, I was like, man, this is incredible how they were like recreated this world.
Yeah.
The writing, the script, so impressed. I mean, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, and a lady I've never heard of, Nicole Holliseffner, did a great job with the script. And then going into the duel at the end, I actually loved that it wasn't vague, because to be honest with you, I was very conflicted, because Legree is the more likable character. He's charismatic, he's articulate, he's educated, he's charming, whereas Le Carouge is definitely perhaps more honorable, but he has no people skills. He's ignorant. He is, a brute. He thinks he's kind to his wife when really he's definitely not. And so at the end, I know what the right thing is, and I do want Le Carouge to win, because he is, on the right side, even though his motives are, Marguerite reveals, are less than pure.
Not even pure. They were just for him.
Exactly,
Yeah.
selfish, yeah. But I was like, man, it's such a shame that Legree, not necessarily that he had to die, but that he did what he did, you know, and actually
Yeah.
was kind of monstrous. That's why for me, like, there was aside from just knowing, okay, what happened to Marguerite is wrong. We can all agree about that. That is black and white. Apart from that, for me, nothing else about this movie was really black and white, and like I love that
Hmm.
about it. It was like so thought provoking, you know. Even Ben Affleck's character, who at one point you're like, oh, this guy just seems like an idiot, you know. He's entitled. But he actually was kind of smart, you know,
Yeah.
at times, and at times like I kind of liked him. So it was just, yeah. So even the mom, right, who the whole time you like, this woman is terrible, you know, you find out she has this horrible backstory, which is that she was raped also, and she
Yeah.
never, you know, fessed up. So man, I thought it was so well done and gave me so much more than I expected. You know, I kind of expected typical, you know, these guys are gonna fight or whatever, but it was really, and for 2 hours and 30 minutes, this was, you know, the opposite of what we really run into, where I didn't want this one to end, you know, and it was so good from the beginning to the end, man.
Yeah.
I really, really, really liked it.
Yeah. The toughest, the best, and like the worst part of the movie for me was the rape scene, because Adam Driver's scene and the way he had it in his mind, I'm like, this guy's a psychopath. There's,
Yeah.
I mean, she is saying no. She's saying, please, no. And
Mhm.
he's going, oh, yeah, hungry eyes, here I come. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, dude, you're crazy. You are
Mhm.
absolutely crazy. And they're still showing this side that no, 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 she's secretly she's enjoying it. You see at the end, oh, she's gripping the sheets now. And I was just like, no, did she want it? Oh, there's no way she would have done that.
Oh,
Oh, maybe she did. But I mean, Carouge was, he seemed like a gorilla. I mean, he was just sitting when his mouth was closed. He had a freaking overbite. He was just sitting there with his bottom jaw just sitting there. I'm just like, he looks like an idiot. So I started thinking, maybe as he's dancing her around the room and she's like, oh, no. I'm like, no, she doesn't. Oh, does she want it? And then we get to hers, and she's running up the stairs and she loses her shoes. She doesn't gracefully kick them
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
You know, they're not playfully going around the table. She's screaming out. He's not checking to see, oh, did someone here? Oh, there's no one here. No, no, she's screaming for help.
yeah,
And then at the end, when he's going, oh, you know, I know you feel guilty, but don't feel guilty. I'm like, oh my God, this guy is a psychopath. He
yeah,
is a straight up psychopath. And then you have these women who are willing to throw themselves. Oh, yeah, I don't care if I'm married one night. Oh, I would love that. And it was just, yeah, no, it was the best and worst part of the movie, which made sense because that's the focal point of the movie. So just the way it was done, man, it was so good. And I enjoyed the fact that Carouge's story is so jarring because he spends most of the time on the road. And when you're on a horse, it takes god awful days to get to wherever you got to go. I mean, the guy was going to Paris all the time. So
yeah,
it makes sense that his story was all disjointed. And we're like, what the heck's going on? Because that's literally what the info that he has. So the fact that that's how it was, I was just like, oh, I mean, yeah, Ridley Scott knocked it out of the park again, man.
yeah.
This is another one on the list that I will not gladly, because again, that rape scene was rough.
It's rough
But
to watch. Yeah.
I mean, the acting and even in her telling of it, you can tell that he in his mind thought that she wanted it. So it's just it was the way it all came together. I mean, it was great.
Well,
I
and
think Jodie Comer like killed those scenes.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Yep.
Juan, you
yeah,
gonna say something?
and well, and even in his perspective, not just that one scene of the actual of the act, but even in the banquet, like in the open air banquet in the daytime, where in his eyes she's like flirting with him
Yeah.
and you know, giving him sexy eyes, and
Yeah.
you know, like she desperately wants him. And that's why, yeah, your comment about him being a psychopath is so true, because in her perspective, you see that while she may have locked eyes on him, she was actually trying to advise Le Carouge the whole time, and about how he could, move up in the world, with a smile instead of, the brute that he was.
Yeah.
But then, so you see like that Legree then shows up and he's like, oh, I'm in love with you, and I know that you're in love with me, and it's like, whoa, dude, all of this was in your head.
Yeah.
And it's like it's crazy. And then Marguerite she really was an awesome character, and I love the way that they told the story, through her eyes. And and again, I still like one of the I still have a lot of unanswered questions, which I like as well. The most obvious one is, who's the real baby daddy? That's the most obvious question. But then I'm like, did she really, like, whatever, was she honoring her marriage, through her loyalty and faithfulness to La Carouge, or did she actually love him? Because like he wasn't that lovable, but yet she was like very committed and like was gonna make that marriage work, no matter what. So even there's like even this mystery about their motivation and their intentions and what, but that makes them, to me, actually like even so much more interesting.
Yeah.
I think one part, if I could, like Marc mentioned, like my favorite part, like one of my favorite parts was the difference in the shoes going up the stairs. Because it was so subtle, but like it told so much of a difference where she took her shoes off and placed them, and then she just ran up, and it just, like I said, it just changed that story so dramatically. Just shoes.
Yeah.
And
I'm telling
I was
you.
like, yeah. This is another spot I want to mention though was in her story, the rape of the horse rape.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
With the other, like I thought it was really cool, because in my head I was like, oh, is she gonna come up with a story for rape because she's seeing this horse get raped, busted into the door, and she couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So to me, like I just thought it was foretelling, because then even Matt Damon's character Jean was just like whacking that thing. He's like, get off her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he couldn't stop it.
Yeah, he couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna, when you were talking about the scene with the shoes, I thought you were gonna mention another scene with the shoes, which I loved, which was when Ben Affleck said, "The gold or the sandals."
Yeah.
And Legree paused for 5 seconds and said, "The gold."
Gold, of course.
But
yeah, no, that's good.
But Ben Affleck killed every scene he was in. I was like, oh, this guy's great.
Yeah, he did. He reminded us why he's great.
Yeah, he's still the goat. Take your pants off, man. Come on. I've never been greeted like that by a friend before. You guys are just lacking in the friendship area. Another thing that I liked is that as she now realizes that her life is on the line because she's telling the truth, because her dumb idiot husband decided to go, oh, well, I'm gonna fight for her honor. She's like, that's not what I wanted. She literally goes, listen, if I could take it all back to make sure that we're all happy, I would have, because I'm not expecting you. Like it was great how this man thinks that he's doing something great for her. She's like, no, you're an idiot. And what happens if you die? Yeah. Like what if you win but you die? Like what happens? And what good does that do? And when he got all pissed and he said, oh, how can Legree keep doing this to me? And she looked at him like, who did it happen to? Did it happen to you? Or like she gave him this face like, are you dumb? Like it was just, man, yeah, bro. Just everything was just so great. And all the actors were great, actresses were great, set pieces were great. It was I can't gush anymore.
I will disagree with one part. I thought one actress in particular was not good, and that was the only bad acting in the movie, in my personal opinion. And that was I could not stand Matt Damon's mother, Dame Harriet Walter. Like I could not stand her delivery or her acting. But everything else I thought was great. Like no, when she was on, she was just, I'm like, you're not even in the same time period the way you're talking right now. And like to me, it bothered me. I don't know why, but every time she came on, like my notes just keep repeating. I'm like, why is she on my screen right now?
I mean, I think that's perfect for it, man, because people get stuck in there. Oh, well, it happened to me, so it just has to happen. That's just how life is.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
And
I liked her story. I liked her what the character was doing. I just didn't like the person who was playing it for some reason.
well, I don't know that actress's name, but she's a great actress. She's in a show that I really like.
Dame
Um,
Harriet Walter.
that's the actress's name.
Yes.
But you know, I kind of I really actually liked her portrayal because even at times where she didn't say anything, but the camera was on her, it was like she was somewhere in between she was somewhere in between, like kind of relating to Marguerite and empathizing with her, and yet at the
What?
same time like hating her. Well,
Oh, I
it was
thought she
like,
hated it the whole time because every time something happened to Marguerite, you would catch this woman smirking at her. So I
yeah,
felt
yeah.
like she like loved anything that was going bad for her.
No, I agree. I agree the majority of it. I don't know. I just felt like subtly there were times where there was a certain look where she like almost wanted. And then I think it does explain it by, saying like, oh, this happened to me too. So I think as a woman, there was probably a part of her that had sympathy and related to that. Obviously, she disagreed in every way with how Marguerite handled it and the consequences that it was going to have of her son. So overall, her dislike or her hate for Marguerite overshadowed everything. But it was still like, even she also was like a little bit conflicted of like, as a woman, saying, well, that sucks, and you saw that with other women too. Like I thought that was really cool, like with the kid that was ultimately the king,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
like the girl that was next to him that I'm assuming was his wife. Like you could tell she was pained by like
Yeah, even Pierre's
hearing
wife.
yeah, like hearing Marguerite's testimony at the actual trial and stuff. So like, and it was, again, it was so, telling of perhaps, what it was like to be a woman at that time, where even when there's something atrocious like that, you really have to kind of like remain silent, even in offering any form of like support or understanding. And again, so much of this was told without any dialogue at all. It
Mhm.
was just through the acting and facial expressions and whatnot. So yeah, man, I mean, the attention to detail in this movie, both as far as like we've already said, set design, camera work, everything, but even the performances in the way that they help to tell the story and like carry, the weight of this drama through all the various characters was really impressive. I from things that I had heard about this movie, and it did like bomb.
Mhm.
And I did read something about that at one point, and I think they just said, look, it like came out at the wrong time where people maybe weren't necessarily interested in like an epic like this or whatever, which is a real shame because I think it's pretty close to like a masterpiece. But
I'm
uh,
gonna be honest, man. When the trailer first came out for this, I thought it looked ridiculous.
same, yeah,
I couldn't buy the way Ben Affleck and Matt Damon looked. They
yeah,
looked ridiculous.
yeah,
Now in the movie, when I sat down and watched it, it was fine. Ben Affleck was still a little out there, but that was his character, so I understood it. The trailer itself, though, it was just like I don't know what's going on. And then they had these accents. I'm just like, I don't know.
yeah.
And I didn't really hear anything outside of that. So apparently there was just not really great marketing for this. But Ridley Scott actually, he came out, he literally blamed millennials. He said it's millennials' fault that the movie didn't do well.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I read. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I have to
So
agree about the
yeah,
marketing, yeah, because the trailer wasn't great, and actually, and again, that's kind of a debate because a lot of times now trailers give away so too much.
yeah.
So like, what finding the right balance. But yeah, I definitely don't think that any of the marketing did it justice.
Yeah, movies like this that have a really tough topic, I mean, you're not going to want to put that in the trailer. So if you're not showing us the main point of the movie and why we're watching what we're watching, it's going to be a hard sell to someone to go and watch it. That's why it took me so long because I was just like, I really am not sure what they're fighting about, and I don't know if I care.
Yeah,
Now that I've seen it, I 100% care, and I will watch it again.
yeah. And Yeah, again, even going back to something, again, with the characters and the storytelling, yeah, again, part of why I was, conflicted even throughout this movie was because, you know, while there's some ambiguity, you have a pretty good sense that Jean Lacarouge is the one that you're supposed to like, because he does seem to at least be trying to do things in an honorable way. um but then he just has no sense of like self-awareness. I'm just thinking of that scene when he's knighted, and in that battle, right, before that battle, I think, and he's knighted, and some of the guys are like talking, and he's like yells at them to be quiet, and then he's knighted and gets up, and nobody reacts
He's
in any
looking
way.
around like, how come nobody's cheering?
Yeah. And so, but so it's like it's his manner, and the way that he is, that makes him likable when he should be likable, and yet and there was a lot of questions for me about him, and this whole sort of um uh, reality that he created for himself, where it was like there's these great injustices that are being done to him, and he's the one that's being cheated, and things are unfair, and it's like it really was his perspective that kind of set him back, whereas like with Legris, it was the opposite, and yet it was because of everything that he achieved and how he was able to move up and acquire power that probably led to him, doing this monstrous thing and feeling like he could get away with it. And I do wonder if his downfall was actually listening to what's his name, to Ben Affleck's advice, right, when he
Pierre.
went. Yeah, Pierre, when he was like, deny, 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 at all times, to whoever asks you, deny. And that's what he ended up doing all the way up to his death. And we haven't even talked about the final battle yet, and how freaking awesome that battle was.
I was really truly expecting this dude, as he's trotting through the town waving. I was just ready for him to fall off his horse dead because of that cut to the leg. Because I mean, isn't that your femoral artery? Like, you get hit around there, and I mean, you're just bleeding.
Oh,
And
it absolutely was. Yeah.
yeah. So, and they even pointed out, Pierre goes, "Oh man, he's gonna bleed out. Hopefully, God." And I'm like, "Oh man."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely totally should. There's no way he would survive that.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but even starting with the jousting,
Mm-hmm.
but also the Matt Damon's helmet made no sense. How are you gonna joust with something that looks that obstructive on your face? Like, he couldn't see anything.
Did
But
he have the half one?
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, you want full vision, bro. I don't want to see with just one eye.
I don't know. I've never jousted, so I don't know which one's best.
Well, let's do it this weekend, man.
All right. Bet.
Oh, jousting sounds like someone's gonna experience the little death.
It was some form of death, that's for sure. No, the fight scene was very well choreographed, and it felt very fitting. And the sword placement in his mouth was just spot on. I couldn't have asked for anything more.
Yeah. It was very poetic, but also, yeah, because I mean, it was I don't know if tense. I mean, there was some tension, but it definitely was like an edge of your seat type of scene, because yeah, you don't know who's gonna die, and the consequences are extreme, when it's like when Marguerite's life is on the line as well, and the baby's life is on the line as well. So, but then even just being like, all right, I kind of think Legris is kind of looking like Legris is the one that's gonna die, but how exactly is he gonna die? And then the dagger right through the mouth was pretty epic, and then seeing him getting dragged and displayed and everything was
Hung upside down, naked.
yeah.
I think one moment that was also telling is when Matt Damon's character Jean. One, like he went up to the king and held up the thing, and he's like, "All right, great, well, congratulations." He goes, "Your wife." He's like, "What? Your wife?" He's like, "Oh yeah, let me turn around. My wife."
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 'cause it really was for him, man. He did that for
Yeah.
himself.
She was an afterthought. Yeah.
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 All right. Well, you ready to get into? I mean, I think we're kind of sounds like we are all going in the same route for reviews. But you want to start it up?
Go ahead and start it up, buddy.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So, yeah, with absolutely no shock, I give it three little Jerry's. I think this is another Ridley Scott gem, and I mean, I really, I mean, the guy can't do wrong. He is just. I think there's no movies that he has that I don't like.
Really?
Say again.
Are you sure about that?
Almost positive because I always find enjoyment in all of his movies. They might not be the best, but I still enjoy them.
Because it kind of, I mean, I was looking through his IMDb,
Yeah.
and he started off great, but then in the middle of his career, it kind of looked like I think it was in the 90s, he didn't really have a lot of.
No. You're definitely not thinking of the
Yeah,
90s.
yeah. Thelma Louise, White Squall, G.I. Jane, Gladiator. It's 2000.
No, yeah, you're probably thinking 2010.
A good year. Kingdom of Heaven.
Where he does Robin Hood.
I get that. Like Thelma
Exodus.
and Louise, was critically acclaimed, but I was not expecting you to name Thelma and Louise as one of these great movies.
It's a good movie. It's actually a really good movie.
Yeah, it's one of his most popular ones. And I haven't even mentioned Black Hawk Down yet. But no, it seems like he had a stint. Yeah, he had a stint with 20th Century Fox from 2012 to 2017. And I think those were probably his worst movies. And The Martian came out during that time.
No, I see.
Exodus.
So he did with the ones, Thelma and Louise, White Squall. But then he starts to have some duds. So after Gladiator and Black Hawk Down, he also had Hannibal in between there. Then he had Kingdom of Heaven a little after that.
Not hearing anything bad.
Oh my goodness!
But Kingdom of Heaven came off of Matchstick Man. Matchstick Man is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Kingdom of Heaven's not terrible.
It's not terrible. It's not good.
No, but again, I say he doesn't. If the movie is not great. I mean, I still found things enjoyable. That's what I'm saying.
I take it back. I mean, there's definitely more winners.
He has more hits than losses. Yeah. That's for sure.
Well, he also did Exodus, Gods and Kings in 2014.
It's funny that was on TV. Because I was like, man, I remember this movie looking so good in trailers, and then just going, what the heck did I watch after leaving the theater? But it's good to want to watch it again.
Did you see what one of his future movies that's been announced is? Gladiator 2.
Oh, this guy's gonna ruin Gladiator for himself, man.
But isn't that rumor though, or is it real?
It says announced on IMDb.
I mean, unless Maximus Aurelius is gonna be fighting down the river Styx, I don't know what he could possibly be doing for us. I mean,
he's a lot chubbier now.
He has the best death in cinema history, so I don't know why. So I hope you're wrong.
Does he have a brother too that directs, or isn't there another?
He committed suicide, I think. Tony Scott.
Scott. Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he jumped off a bridge.
Oh, wow.
But he did Man on Fire though, Tony Scott, I believe.
That is my favorite Denzel Washington movie.
Oh, so good.
I love Man on Fire. Well, anyway, sorry, I completely went off the rails. Three little Jerry's for me.
Okay, Kevin, if you don't mind, I'll go next.
Okay, you go next.
Okay, gee golly, this is I mean, I try to I want to be really conservative with giving out threes, but I have nothing bad to say about this, and it was thoroughly enjoyable. I guess, like I said, it really hit all the marks. I get it, Mark. Yeah, I'll give it three little Jerry's for me as well. Yeah.
All right. The one thing I think we didn't touch on, which we didn't get a chance to, was just like the nature of friendships and how fragile they become and how easy they become strained. Because I've had friends and that's what I really liked about this also. I've had friendships where I thought we were in good terms, and all of a sudden, like, there's machinations happening on the other side, and you're like, oh wow, man, what happened? And I thought that aspect was really good on this movie. I loved almost everything about it. I personally can't give it a 3 because I just can't jive with the one actress, but I could give it a solid 2.75. I don't know if I would watch it again purposefully, but I wouldn't mind watching it if somebody's like, "Oh, never watched it." I'm like, "All right, put it on." But I like I said, just the rapes, like, it's really well done. I just don't know if I can put myself through that again. I was like, "Ooh, that's rough." So it's a 2.75.
Hey, that's
2.75 little Jerry's.
that's fair. That's fair. Well, well done, Mark, with another excellent
What a
selection.
bounce back! What a
Yeah,
bounce back!
you're really redeeming yourself.
I like to. I'm going to be a roller coaster, so my next pick's going to be out there.
Can't wait.
Yay. All right. Well, good job, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks, man.
Yeah, keep it up. Don't ever lose hope. Believe in yourself. You can do it. Let's make it happen. Anyway, get going off the rails.
Like
Sorry, how many you got there loaded up?
It's like a waterfall of positivity coming out of you.
Ready to conquer
I
the
was
world.
enjoying it.
Yes. Yeah, I want you guys to have a good night's sleep with all that positivity.
There it is.
Till we convene next time.
Yeah, till next time. Cheerio.
All right. See you. Love you.